Welcome to the deep dive. We're cutting through the noise today, trying to wrestle down this massive topic of, well, super fast business growth into something genuinely useful.
That's the plan.
Today, it's all about blitzscaling. Now, that sounds, I don't know, maybe a bit like jargon, maybe something only for Silicon Valley types.
Yeah, it can sound that way. But the core idea, the strategy behind how some of these huge companies got so big so fast, well, it's surprisingly relevant, actually.
So we're digging into the book Blitzscaling, The Lightning Fast Path to Building Massively Valuable Companies. It's by Reid Hoffman and Chris Solis.
Right. Came out in 2018.
Hmm.
And Reid Hoffman, his background, PayPal, LinkedIn, Facebook, Airbnb, the guy's seen it work and probably seen it fail too. He knows this stuff.
Definitely adds some weight. And Bill Gates wrote the foreword, which, doesn't hurt.
Not at all. It signals this isn't just some fleeting trend.
So our mission today is really to pull out the practical bits. How can you, listening right now, use these ideas? Even if you're not aiming for a billion-dollar company, maybe you're leading a team, maybe launching a project.
Or maybe just trying to understand why everything seems to move so damn fast these days. The principles apply. It's about recognizing patterns of rapid growth and effective action.
Okay, so maybe an example to kick us off, something that really shows this speed in action.
Sure. Think about Alibaba in China, way back. Tencent had QQ Messenger, which was mass.
Dominated.
Totally.
Yeah.
Then Alibaba saw the shift to mobile coming.
Mm.
Instead of like endless meetings and planning committees.
Mhm.
A tiny team, just 10 people, basically locked themselves away and hammered out weeks in what we now know as WeChat.
And they did this how fast?
2 months.
Wow, 2 months,
That's insane.
Yeah, and apparently it felt like life and death for Alibaba at the time. They had to make it work.
And the result? Within a year, hundreds of millions of users. It completely flipped the script, that urgency, that scale.
Yeah.
That's the flavor of blitzscaling.
Okay, that definitely sets the scene. So let's break it down. What is blitzscaling, really, at its heart?
Okay, fundamentally, it's choosing speed over efficiency. Deliberately.
Speed over efficiency.
Yeah, especially when you're facing a lot of uncertainty, maybe big competitors, and you're in a market where the first one to get big tends to win big. A winner-take-most situation.
So you just go for it, even if it's messy.
Exactly. It's often the opposite of traditional business school thinking, which is usually about careful planning, optimizing resources, minimizing risk up front.
This sounds more like jump off the cliff and build the plane on the way down.
Slight chuckle.
A
A bit
bit.
like that, yeah. Or maybe like deciding you have to be the first one to plant your flag on that mountain,
Right.
even if you have to leave some gear behind and take a less efficient path to get there first.
Okay, like Airbnb going into Europe early on. That felt risky.
Definitely. It wasn't the efficient move. They stretched themselves thin. The experience probably wasn't perfect for early users over there.
Right.
They could have failed, could have opened the door for competitors, but by moving fast, they grabbed that critical market share before anyone else really could. It was a calculated risk, prioritizing that speed.
I see. So even if I'm not, launching a global tech giant, maybe I spot an opening locally. A competitor's slow on the uptake.
Yeah.
That same idea, acting fast, even if it's not perfectly planned, could give me an edge.
Absolutely. Think about, say, a local coffee shop sees the cold brew trend starting. They could spend months perfecting their recipe, sourcing the absolute best beans,
Or
or they could quickly get a decent version out there, maybe partner with a local deli for distribution, and become the cold brew place in town before anyone else gets serious about it.
Uh-huh.
That's blitz scaling on a different scale, seizing the moment.
Okay. The book talks about 3 basics for this. What are they?
Right, the foundations.
Yeah.
They are business model innovation, strategy innovation, and management innovation.
Let's start with business model innovation. The idea here is that the really huge growth often comes from a new way of doing business, not just a slightly better product.
Spot on. Think Dropbox, Uber, Airbnb again. The tech was part of it, sure, but the genius was often in how they connected people or resources, how they created value differently.
A new model.
Exactly. And the key is designing that model for growth from the start. The book talks about 4 growth factors to maximize and 2 growth limiters to minimize. We should definitely dig into those.
Sounds useful. Okay, second basic, strategy innovation. This isn't just saying we want to grow fast.
No, definitely not. It's knowing what to do to fuel that growth, but just as importantly, what not to do, what to ignore even.
Oh, okay.
Because growth without a working business model underneath, well, that's just burning cash faster. The book uses this great analogy, selling $20 bills for just $1,
Chuckles, yeah, you'll get customers fast.
but you won't be around long. In these winner-take-most markets, the growth itself becomes a weapon. Getting big first creates its own momentum and barriers to entry.
So being the first big player makes it harder for others to catch up. You mentioned Nokia earlier as a kind of warning.
Yeah, it's a classic, slightly painful example for anyone who remembers them dominating. In 2007, they were king of mobile phones.
Totally. Indestructible bricks.
Right. Then the iPhone arrived, Android followed, a whole new game started. Nokia reacted, but slowly, carefully, maybe.
Too carefully, it seems.
Yeah, their value just plummeted. It's a really stark lesson in what happens if you move too slow when the ground is shifting under your feet.
Oof, a tough lesson. And the third basic was management innovation.
Right, because managing a company that's doubling in size every few months, that's just fundamentally different from managing a stable, predictable business.
So you need different rules, different approaches.
Completely. The book lays out these 9 counterintuitive rules, things that go against standard management practice, but are often necessary when you're moving at lightning speed. We can touch on a couple of those later.
Intriguing. Okay, let's go back to business model innovation. Those growth factors you mentioned. What's the first one?
Market size. Seems obvious, maybe, but it's crucial. How big is the potential pond you're fishing in?
Right, TAM, total addressable market. But the twist here is not defining it too narrowly.
Exactly. Peter Thiel's quote is brilliant here, comparing sizing a disruptive market based on the old one to like estimating the car market based on the number of horses in 1910.
Chuckles, good one.
Disruptors often create new markets or massively expand existing ones. Think Amazon.
Started with books.
Right. If they just thought online bookstore, they'd be, well, just an online bookstore. But Bezos saw the everything store. They kept expanding their definition of their market.
So the actionable insight for listeners is think bigger. Don't just look at today's customers, but who could benefit? What adjacent needs could you meet?
Precisely. How could this thing grow beyond what it looks like right now? Okay, growth factor number 2, distribution.
Getting it out there. I've definitely heard that a good enough product with great distribution beats a perfect product nobody knows about.
That's the essence of it. Drew Houston from Dropbox is quoted saying, "Too many startups obsess over the product and forget the massive challenge of actually getting it to users. You need all pieces. Build, distribute, and have a sustainable model."
Makes sense. And distribution's gotten harder, hasn't it? Especially with mobile. You can't just rely on Google anymore.
Oh, definitely. App stores are crowded. Getting found is tough. Companies like Instagram or WhatsApp, they had to be super smart about it.
How so?
They often leveraged existing networks like your phone contacts or Facebook friends and built virality right into the product itself, so users spread it for them. Less reliance on big ad spends.
So for us,
Yeah,
think creatively about reaching people. Existing networks, partnerships. Can the product itself encourage sharing? Don't just think ads.
exactly. Okay, growth factor 3, network effects.
This is the classic more users, more value thing, right? Like Facebook is more useful if your friends are on it.
Precisely. Each new user adds value for all the other users. The book uses the Google versus Yahoo example here.
How do they differ?
Google's core ad business, AdWords, had strong network effects. More advertisers meant better ads for users. More users meant more potential clicks for advertisers. It's a virtuous cycle.
Okay.
Yahoo focused more on being a media company. That's more about economies of scale, making content cheaper as you produce more. Different dynamic. Network effects businesses often scale more powerfully.
So can you build that into your thing? A marketplace, a
Yeah.
community, anything where participation increases the value for everyone?
That's the question to ask.
Yeah,
And the fourth growth factor, quickly, is virality.
where it spreads by itself, like a virus.
Trickle. In a good way, hopefully.
Yeah.
Self-propagating growth, early social media invites, clever referral programs, content that just takes off. That organic spread is like rocket fuel.
Got it. So those are the accelerators. What about the brakes, the growth limiters?
First big one, lack of product market fit.
Meaning you haven't actually made something people really want or need.
Pretty much. You need to be satisfying a strong market demand. If you don't have that fit, pouring resources into growth is just expensive and futile. You're pushing rope.
So rule 0 is make sure people actually want your thing before you try to scale massively.
Absolutely critical. The second limiter is operational scalability.
Can you actually handle the growth if it comes?
Exactly. Both the human side hiring, managing a rapidly expanding team, keeping the culture, and the non-human side, your tech infrastructure, your servers, your supply chain.
Right, the stories of sites crashing because they got too popular too fast.
Yeah, or teams just falling apart under the strain. The book mentions Friendster, an early social network, basically collapsing because their tech couldn't keep up with user growth.
Wow. So you need the demand, but you also need the pipes to handle it. Didn't Airbnb have an interesting approach to this with, like, photography early on?
They did. Brian Chesky, the co-founder, realized listings with good photos did way better. But they
Right.
couldn't afford pro photographers for everyone initially.
So what did they do?
The founders literally went door to door taking pictures themselves in the early days.
No way.
Yeah, obviously not scalable long term, but it proved the value. Then they figured out how to outsource it, build a system. His mantra was apparently, do everything by hand until it's too painful, then automate it.
That's actually great advice. Prove the concept manually, then figure out scaling. So listeners should think, what are my potential bottlenecks? Tech, people, supply. And have at least a rough idea how to tackle them later.
Exactly. Plan for the pain points you anticipate. Now, the book also mentions these proven business model patterns, kinds of models that often work well for scaling.
Yeah, what are some examples?
Well, one is bits rather than atoms.
Hmm.
Software, digital content, things made in information rather than physical stuff. Think Google, Facebook, much lower cost to replicate and distribute globally.
Makes sense. Higher margins, easier scaling.
Another is platforms, like Microsoft Windows or iOS or even marketplaces like eBay. They create an ecosystem where others build businesses or interact. That can create powerful lock-in and growth.
And subscriptions.
Not like Salesforce pioneered for enterprise software or Netflix for entertainment. Predictable revenue, often strong retention. Yeah. Very attractive for scaling.
And underpinning a lot of this is technology, right? Moore's Law, automation.
Absolutely. The falling cost and increasing power of computing Moore's Law just enables entirely new digital business models. And automation is key to handling the massive volume that comes with blitzscaling without needing an equally massive army of people.
Okay, makes sense. So we know what it is, what fuels it, what hinders it. When should someone actually do this? It sounds pretty risky.
It is risky. The book is clear. It's mainly for those winner-take-most or winner-take-all markets, where being first or biggest gives you a massive, maybe insurmountable advantage.
So if speed is the critical factor to win.
That's the key trigger. In those cases, the risk of being too slow letting a competitor grab that dominant spot is often seen as greater than the risks of moving fast and messy.
Like the Nokia situation again, the risk of caution was ultimately higher than the risk of bold action would have been.
Arguably, yes, but, and this is a big but, it's not for every business. Think about a high-end craft brewery or that Michelin star restaurant, the French Laundry.
Right, their whole model is exclusivity, quality, craftsmanship, not breakneck speed and scale.
Exactly. Blitzscaling would destroy what makes them special. So it's crucial to understand your specific context, your market, your competitive landscape. Is speed truly the name of the game for you?
That's a critical judgment call. If you're, say, a local accountant, probably not. If you've invented cold fusion in your garage, maybe?
Chuckles, maybe.
Ah.
Yeah. The book also maps out 5 stages of blitzscaling: family, tribe, village, city, nation. Basically showing how the company and the founder's role have to change dramatically as you grow.
Yeah, and those 9 counterintuitive rules, we touched on them. Things like embrace chaos.
Yeah, and hire ahead of need, launch a product that embarrasses you, let fires burn. They sound crazy from a traditional perspective.
Launch a product that embarrasses you. I mean, come on, who wants to do that?
Laughs.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to. But the logic is about learning speed. Getting something out there, even if imperfect, lets you get real user feedback immediately.
Instead of polishing in secret for a year.
Right. The founder shared his story with SocialNet, his first company. They spent ages perfecting it, launched, and realized they'd built the wrong thing because they hadn't talked to users enough early enough. Compare that to PayPal or Facebook launch fast. Iterate constantly based on data.
Okay. Painful, but maybe wise. What about let fires burn? Sounds like management negligence.
It's not negligence, it's triage. When you're growing that fast, everything feels like it's on fire. You physically cannot put out every fire simultaneously.
So you have to choose which ones to tackle first.
Exactly. The book suggests a hierarchy. Distribution getting users is usually the biggest emergency, then product and revenue model, then operations, then competition. Deal with the fire that will kill you first.
Like LinkedIn focusing on growth before figuring out exactly how they'd make money.
That's a classic example. They knew monetization wouldn't matter if nobody was using the platform, so they let the revenue model fire smolder while they focused intensely on getting users distribution and product.
Strategic prioritization, not just letting things collapse. Okay, one last piece. Responsible blitzscaling. It's not just growth at any cost.
No, and that's an important point, especially now. The book talks about being an ethical pirate, disruptive, maybe breaking some old rules, but ultimately aiming to build something valuable and sustainable, not just exploitative.
As opposed to actual pirates. Or worse.
Yeah, the contrast is maybe with sociopathic criminals, people who just exploit loopholes for short-term gain without building anything real. It also touches on the necessary shift as a company matures, from maybe a pirate culture to more of a navy needing more process structure, responsibility. Uber's journey is often cited here.
Right, the move fast and break things mentality needs to evolve eventually. Okay, this has been a lot. Let's try to boil it down. What are the absolute key takeaways for listeners?
Okay, number one, blitzscaling. Speed efficiency, especially in uncertain, winner-take-most markets.
Got it. Speed first.
2. Think bigger about your market potential. Don't limit yourself.
Expand the definition.
3. Distribution is critical and requires creativity. Don't just build it and hope they come.
Actively get it out there.
4. Look for ways to build in network effects where more users add more value.
Makes growth exponential.
5. Be brutally honest about product market fit before scaling and anticipate your operational scalability bottlenecks.
Don't stale something nobody wants, and be ready if they do.
6. Understand if speed is truly the critical advantage in your specific situation. It isn't always.
Context matters.
And maybe finally, embrace faster learning cycles. Launch, learn, iterate. Don't wait for perfection.
Get feedback early and often. Great. And remember, these ideas, even if they come from tech, can spark insights anywhere.
Absolutely. It's about adapting fast, seeing opportunities, understanding the dynamics, whether it's a business, a project, even a community initiative.
So here's the final thought for everyone listening. Where in your world, work, personal project, anything, could applying a bit of this blitzscaling thinking make a surprising difference? Prioritizing action, learning quickly, even if it's messy at first.
Yeah, what fires might you strategically ignore for a bit to focus all your energy on the one thing that truly matters for progress right now? It's a challenging question. And of course, if you want the full deep dive, the book itself, Blitzscaling, has way more detail and stories.
Definitely. We'll link to it in the show notes. Thanks so much for breaking this down with us.
My pleasure. Always interesting stuff.
And thanks to everyone for tuning in to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you on the next one.